why did you want to do Abenaki Trails project?
Well, back in 2010, when we were doing the bill for the commission, and I heard the legislators saying that New Hampshire was a pass-through state, that no Indians actually ever lived here, that just made me angry to begin with. Just kept going through my mind. And then when we were trying to find something to do, this was a positive thing. And it's proven, so far, it has proven 100% that Indians did live here. And oh, and by the way, Indians still live here. So
when we did the commission, through that whole process, one of the frequent comments we heard legislators make was that New Hampshire was just a pass-through state. No Native Americans ever lived here. And it just really was so infuriating that people actually believed that. And so it's never left us, really. And Daryl said, I really want to do this project. I want to show that we've always been here and that we're still here. So we dreamed up this project, Abenaki Trails project. And it was Hopkinton. We all agreed that Hopkinton made the most sense to start with. It was where Daryl lived. It was his project, his idea. The year before, Hopkinton had changed to Indigenous Peoples Day from Columbus Day, and they had done a whole year of programming on Native American studies. And so that's where we started. And pretty quickly, we discovered a village in the West Hopkinton area, a village site there. And then I was reading the Hopkinton history, Henniker history, and realized that all the artifacts in Henniker had been found in the eastern part of town. And I checked with Martha Taylor from the Henniker Historical Society, and she said, yeah, that's true. And then we realized all those cornfields and agricultural places along the interval in East Henniker was also Abenaki village. Well, oh, it's all one village. And they built the Everett Dam and cut it in half. But so that's when we realized, okay, our people didn't draw boxes on a map and stay in a town. So I think that's a little bit goes to what Lynn was saying earlier, why we can't only talk about Warner if we're talking about Indigenous people, even in a place like this. And we really are finding a lot of evidence that here it was not nomadic at all. I would have still fought. I still believed what we hear all the time, that summer on the coast, spring and fall at the garden grounds, and winter at the hunting grounds. Well, when you think about it, here we have all three. Why would we want to go truck over to the coast when we have all the fish we could eat right in the rivers and lakes right here? We can grow our corn here. And in fact, it's pretty clear that this is part of a growing zone for natives that we were trading with the Maine Indians and northern New Hampshire, you know, more northern people, our corn for other products they had to trade us back. And then hunting, moose. I mean, right now, I just learned from the Krista Humboldt from the Nature Conservancy was just sharing with me that where I live, so the Mink Hills and crossing over into the area of Henniker, Bradford, and to Hillsborough, it's all wild. We have just thousands of acres over here of wildland. And so we would have no reason to go anywhere else to hunt either. It's just, I don't think our people moved around much. I mean, they may have left an area and moved to another area at some point because resources were getting a little depleted or something or whatever. But anyway, so that's kind of how we got going, and it's been really incredible. So Nancy, did you want to share some of what your experience has been?
Yeah, but I will ask you to talk about, you know, the picture on the slide of the footprint.
I had been told about the steps near the Kentucky River in Henniker. I thought it was just rocks, a stairway going down into the river. And I wondered how they identified that as being Native American. And so when I was asking Martha about it, she said, oh, you mean the footprints in the rock? I go, oh, they're footprints in a rock? So So we see these footsteps, and we have Brian Chenevert, who's our tribal historian, and Brian is the keeper of these stories for our tribe. And he said, oh, the footprints in the rock. Yeah, we know about those. They are in several places. There's some in Maine, there's some in Vermont, and there's a set out in Ohio we know about. And he said, for us, these are a Meadowan, a person with a lot of medicine, is able to sink their feet in hard earth or stone. And so we were just like, wow. So who did we know from the records since contact, colonial times forward, who had really strong medicine that was an Abenaki person here? Oh, that would be Passaconaway, with the incredible stories that he could turn dead leaves to life. So we really don't know whose footprints they are. It could have been any person with strong medicine from then back in time for 13,000 years, but that's what these footprints are.
Abenaki people were the first people here. Here, as soon as the glaciers retreated, there were people here, and their descendants today are known as the Abenaki. And this is some of the archaeological finds right in this town. These two on the left and in the middle were found in Davisville, and the one on the right was found all the way across town, and the Parsons home, which I believe is in the Waterloo district. The Davisville Artifacts are part of collections found by Cyrus Dustin and Nathaniel Davis on their farms when they were plowing their fields in the 19th century. They were donated to the Hopkinton Historical Society in 1873, so long before there was a Warner Historical Society. So looking at these artifacts, we can tell that indigenous people lived in Davisville at least 6,000 years. The collections that they gave to the Historical Society include pieces of earthenware containers, which is down here. This is a rim of a pot. That were used for storage or for cooking. Fishing weights, and here you see somebody holding up this little fishing weight. A very large pestle. This is a woodworking tool, a gouge. And they also found some personal adornment items, numerous woodworking tools. And this artifact of the Parsons is another kind of woodworking tool called a celt. So lots of those. But when you see these big stone objects, you have to, if you're wondering about what life was like over those thousands of years, you have to also picture all the things that are perishable, that didn't survive archaeologically. So things made of tools, instruments, clothing, personal adornment that were made from wood, bark, bone, sinew, skins, all that shell. And maybe even more importantly, you have to remember the stories, the ideas, the beliefs, the dances, the songs, all of that, many of which survive as oral traditions among Abenaki people today. Then we come to the settling when the colonial settlers first came to Warner. They were trying to settle the town during the French and Indian War. So it was very hard to get people to come out here because they, of course, were afraid of being captured by the Indians. And this is some artwork done by Fernanda Harrington for her book Lost Davisville, where she's showing that the first sawmill that was built, I believe, in the 1740s, first sawmill, and the first 4 houses that they built to entice people to come settle here were burnt down during one of the Indians were coming through from a raid somewhere and going on their way back up to Canada. So they just burnt down this little settlement that was trying to get built. So of course, in the 19th century history books, it's referred to as one of the depredations of the Indians. But if you look at it another way, it was like Abenaki people just saying, stop encroaching on our territory. But we have plenty of evidence, if you look elsewhere, for peaceful relations when there wasn't a war going on. And these are some objects locally. This is a basket from Hopkinton, and basket expert that we had come down during one of our baskets out of the attic days. Thought it was the oldest Pennacook basket she had ever seen. You hear about people going off to fight in the 18th century on snowshoes. Well, they not only sometimes learned to make the snowshoes from native people, but sometimes paid the native people to make their snowshoes for them. And you had moccasin makers in Warner, in Hopkinton. And this is this one is from Hopkinton, where there's John Currier was making a pair of moccasins. There are 2 pairs of moccasins in town. So obviously they learned that skill from the native people that were living around them. And here's another example of native people coming through the area in the 19th century. So maybe Sherry wants to talk about.
I was so excited when Lynn shared this with me, because in my own family history, my great-grandfather, Eber Dyer, settled in Peterborough. So talking about moving and settling. So Eber settled in Peterborough in the later 1800s. And prior to that, his parents lived as gypsies. We have documentation, both a letter from a great aunt and also Fred Tuttle from Vermont. There's a movie made about him, and some of you may have heard of him, but Fred Tuttle, the infamous Fred Tuttle, his family had a farm, and my ancestors, my great-great-grandparents, would go to his farm, and they'd go out in the woods and get their brown ash to make their baskets. For Abenaki people, the word tribe means family. So it's a family band is what tribe means, and different tribes are different sizes. So in our family band, there was Blakes, Dyers, and Phillips, which were all anglicized names that people took on, but they all lived like gypsies, and they would make their baskets, and they would travel around New England selling their baskets with horse and wagon. So when I saw this is one of like 3 different families that this could possibly be, and one of them is ours.
So with the help of the chief, our tribal historian, we were able to find articles and publications on ancient pots found in Ndakana, which is our word for homeland. I was able to study these articles in publications, and also got to go to the Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum and actually see some actual pots. One of them called the Canterbury Pot, and a couple others called the Hunter Pots. I studied these, I took photographs of them, and I even got to hold the Canterbury Pot in my hands, and it was very exciting to me, and to think that I was holding something that my ancestors made thousands of years ago.
On one of our canoe trips, we met Reed and Cody for the first time, and Barry's cousin Vicky thought that Reed and I had a lot of interests in common, and we should get to know each other and what our interests are, and we both had a long-time interest in birchbark canoes. So after looking at Reed's model canoes and talking a little bit about it, we thought we could continue to think about it and do it, or we could just make one.
Woods are extending out me in the